How is cheese made? From the milking of the cow to the forming of the curd, there are a lot of processes involved in the production of the cheeses that we all know and love. What exactly does cheese consist of? The process begins with the collection of milk from several dairy farms. After it has been delivered to the cheese factory, the cheesemakers examine the milk and take samples to ensure that it satisfies all of the required standards for quality and purity. After being judged acceptable, the milk is put through a filter before being standardized, which means that additional fat, cream, or protein may be added to it. This is significant because cheesemakers must begin the production process with the same type of base milk in order to produce cheese that is uniform. The standardization of the milk is followed by the process of pasteurization. The consumption of pasteurized milk is required due to the presence of potentially harmful bacteria in raw milk, which are eliminated during the pasteurization process. At this step in the process, the milk receives starter cultures, which are beneficial microorganisms. Lactic acid is produced when the starting cultures ferment lactose, which is the natural sugar found in milk. The flavor and consistency of the cheese are both influenced by this process. The production of several kinds of cheese requires the employment of distinctive cultures of their own. Swiss cheese, for instance, utilizes one sort of culture, whereas brie and blue cheeses utilize different types. After the starting culture has been introduced, a few other components such as rennet and, depending on the type of cheese, color, are added. This is the reason why cheddar cheese is orange in color. Before the curds, the solids, separate from the whey, the rennet causes the milk to gel in a manner that is analogous to yogurt, the liquid. The amount of rennet that is required and the period of time that must pass in order for it to form curds can vary from cheese to cheese. Cheesemakers will cut it once it has begun to gel, this will allow the whey to drain out of the cheese. When making drier cheeses, it's common practice to cut the curds more, which results in smaller curds and a greater loss of moisture. On the other hand, cheeses with fewer cuts produce curds that are larger and retain more moisture. After the curds have been chopped, they are heated, then agitated, which causes even more whey to be released. At this stage, the curd has been separated from the whey, and it is time to begin the process of giving the cheese a more cheese-like appearance. This can go one of two ways, both of which are dependent on the sort of cheese used. After being salted, the curd is placed in a mold where it is compressed. The cheeses cheddar and Colby both fall within this category. The curd is formed into a hoop and then brined after being pressed. This is something that can happen with mozzarella and Swiss cheese. Because more whey is squeezed out of the cheese as it is being pressed, the cheese is eventually formed into the shape and consistency of cheeses that we are familiar with. After the cheese has been molded, it may be left to age for some time until it is ready to be consumed.